Welcome to another episode of Whole Man. I have an awesome guest with me today. His name is David Ambrose. He is the owner of Metafit RX. I met David through a mutual connection at a BNI group that I was a part of. And I remember the first time we spoke, I believe you were on a walk and I was on a walk. And we spoke for probably an hour and a half or
Yeah.
something like that during our first conversation. I just think you're an awesome human being. Your mission's amazing. And I would love for you to just start this thing off with talking about who you are, what you do, and then I want to kind of guide us towards the direction of what made David David, what things happened in your life, why are you so driven, and why are you so, I would say, obsessed in a healthy way of helping people with their personal well-being and their physical health.
Yeah.
So let's kick it off with whatever you want to speak on with your company
Yeah.
and with you.
Yeah. So thanks for having me. And yes, it was when we first talked, I think that was the day I hit 9 miles in our parking lot.
Wow.
I got 18,000 steps in our parking lot. I broke 20,000 on a work day because I had you. We talked for a while, and I had another one or two walking meetings that day, and got 20,000 steps
That's awesome.
in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. So yeah, David Ambrose, owner of a couple businesses actually. Metafit RX, Metafit MD is the other one, and then
Okay.
Synergy Health Collective. So a lot going on there.
Yeah.
The main focus we'll talk about today will be the RX component, but there's kind of this umbrella of what we're doing as my brain can't focus on one thing at once and wants to always add additional things. So, but yeah, my wife actually started our business, Metafit RX. This was her graduate program at James Madison in exercise physiology. My graduate degree was in health promotion management, which is basically health coaching. And she had the idea of bringing all this testing to everybody and not just elite athletes, which is what all the research is based upon, cyclists and runners. Her goal was to bring it to the middle-aged mom and dad that is super busy. They're taking care of kids that are either a little bit older or maybe now they're in college or out. And then maybe they have a parent that is also they're taken care of. So anybody, and you'll get there one day, when you get around into your 40s, you have sometimes little people you're taking care of and sometimes older people you're taking care of.
Right.
And maybe there's an animal or two also, and maybe there's land. Maybe, there's a lot of things. But a lot of things happen where you're at your busiest time of your career and the most priority is coming from you, from other familial sources, and there's just a lot happening. So it becomes a thing where Melissa saw this as an opportunity to help people become healthier, live longer, live better. That's really the goal, is sort of what we call the practical care side of what is known as primary care. Primary care, everybody knows what primary care is, but our goal is to have a practical care model where we're now having applicable data other than drawing blood and turn your head and cough, right? We want to actually have some demonstrable data of how do your heart and lungs function, what is your actual body composition, how is your metabolism functioning? Is it functioning well? Is it or at a speed we want it to be? So we say unlock your metabolic formula, and with that metabolic formula, we can then give you that dietary script, that cardio script, and also see what's happening as far as internally with the body, with visceral fat levels, bone health, total body fat levels, muscle mass. And this is where we just get a really powerful formula to help you have a blueprint for how to improve the main focus would be that second half of life.
Okay.
And the marginal decade. So the second half of life from 40 plus, and then those last 10 years.
I'm curious, when it comes to your work,
Yeah.
it sounds like that both you and Melissa have a strong background in health and nutrition and fitness.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear about the background in that for you and also for her, maybe even the story of how you two met. How did these two people collide?
Well, all right. So technically, when we met in DC,
Okay.
and she would have been my direct supervisor at Gold's Gym
Okay.
at the time.
I love it.
So HR violations, but no, it was we just became friends, and then later on discovered there's a little bit more here.
Yeah.
That's the best way to summarize that. But it started, and because we started as friends, it
Sure.
completely had a different dynamic. There was never ever any expectation of anything else. And so it was this complete honesty.
Yeah, I love it. And you hear that a lot when it comes to, I think, when people have a strong foundation in their relationships, and her being
Yeah.
a co-business owner with you,
Yeah.
you got to have that foundation.
Yeah.
So strong friendship first, and then
Yep.
attraction second, right?
Yeah.
Which is great.
So she's always been my boss, is the point.
Yeah.
But this is understanding our roles.
Mm-hmm.
She's very good in that leadership role.
I see.
I'm so disorganized mentally
Yeah.
in my brain that I need someone to keep me on track. I need someone who can do the X's and O's and dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, I could talk to you for 4 hours here,
Right.
and I wouldn't bat an eye at it. Whereas her, she's going to say, here's a question, here's the answer.
I see.
And so I feel like you need both, and that's what we saw in the business. Was she found out quickly, I can give people this black and white clinical data about how their body's working, about how their metabolism's working, about everything with their body.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I get someone to then take data and apply it in a meaningful way to a busy? We all don't have the same 24 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
The fitness influencer on Instagram spends 4 hours a day exercising,
Right.
and prepares every meal by hand.
Sure.
I prepare every meal by hand for us, and I'm lucky if I get an hour in a day of some sort of designated exercise time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I do walking calls, because that gets me a lot of extra activity that
Sure.
I'm not really counting. But
So you guys have kind of found that there's a difference between awareness, knowing what's wrong, which is the primary care, and then the actual, okay, based off my circumstances, how do I apply what I've found?
Right.
And
Right.
it sounds like that's the gap you're bridging. And so she started it first. When
Yeah.
did she start the organization? And then when did you come into the picture?
I was always
the
there from the
organization?
beginning. I named the business, and
Okay.
I was always there from the beginning, and I was always a part of it. But I didn't go full time into it until about a year into it. I'd
Gotcha.
probably say.
And what were you doing before you went full time into
Well,
it?
we had moved from DC, and right when we moved here, COVID hit not long after.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And she'd bought these machines, our original metabolic machines, in January of 2020. If you recall, we
Yeah.
had a bit of a problem in 2020,
Uh-huh.
and some stuff happened in March, and then the whole country was in disarray for quite a while. As we're like, what's happening here? And I've been in the healthcare, health, fitness space for 15 years at that point. I was like, I'm not going back to personal training. I'm not,
Got it.
and I was like, what can I do? So I actually got into the financial health component,
Okay.
and got into some of the financial planning components, because I thought that was always the missing component of wellness, where you have, and doing this for a very long time and working with people, particularly high executive function people,
Sure.
you would see, hey, this guy's got money. It's not a problem. He can pay me, I could say $1 million an hour. He's fine, right?
Yeah,
Well, not
yeah.
that, but I mean, whatever, it didn't matter. Money wasn't an issue. So, but what you see was these, particularly the men I worked with, a lot of the very successful men had become broken in the process of their careers. So you saw the physical health suffer.
Yeah.
Mentally, they were actually doing pretty well. They're pretty happy people, right? But financially, they're doing well. Physically, they weren't doing so well. But mentally, emotionally, they were in a good space. But
Sure.
what you saw now is, as you get into your 40s and 50s, things just start to break down if you don't take care of them. So
Gotcha.
that's where I got into the financial component. And I still 100% firmly believe in the whole wellness wheel, and
Sure.
financial health, physical, mental, emotional, I think, are the most impactful. Others are very important also, but I think
Sure.
overall, if you can get those three targeted, and I can tell you, very few people have all three.
And that's physical, mental, and emotional,
Yeah.
and then financial health.
Yeah. I think you can't disentangle them. Then
Right.
you have social, spiritual, or purpose, environmental, occupational.
Right.
You have all these other. The environment is massive, right? If you're in a toxic environment,
Yeah.
how do you succeed?
So essentially, yeah. So you started your focus as like the financial health, and then
Yeah.
there was something.
Right.
It sounds like that happened that made you want to take the leap into doing the business full time.
Yeah.
What was that transition like? What was the catalyst for that?
That
for
was
you?
her needing someone that can talk to people, and
Got it.
and she can talk to people, of course, but the idea of being able to talk to anybody I'm sitting across from, I will find common ground. I don't know if empathy or sympathy is the right word.
Sure.
Empathy, but it's just proactive listening. That's all it is. I don't
Yeah.
have to have been through what you've been through. Actually, I can't. Even if I was your twin brother, I didn't experience the same life as you.
Right.
Right. So I just need to be able to listen and then apply and figure out what did he or she say that I can now take and help them build a plan and be successful. And that might be 20 minutes a day this person has for activity, 4 days a week.
Right.
That's it. They don't have time for more.
So it sounds like you're like the sales and the marketing
Yeah.
person,
And
and
then
then she's like the
behavioral.
COO,
Oh, yeah.
CEO person.
100%.
And you guys have a team now,
Yeah,
correct?
we have
'Cause
three and a half people.
3.5
So
people. Yeah.
Melissa, myself. So Melissa would be considered our clinical exercise physiologist,
Okay.
along with Emma and Chris. And I would be I say health behavior specialist, but it's more like a health coach is really what most people would call it. But
Sure. And
yeah,
I know
so
the
three.
pain of everybody and their mom calling themselves coach. So I understand
Yeah,
the
and
diversification of wanting,
right,
yeah.
right. And with my credentials and my experience, you know, it's like when you look at personal training, personal trainers that get a certification over the weekend, personal trainers that did a 4-year degree and a master's and a doctorate in the field. It's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
But the caveat with everything is credentials are one thing, experience
And wisdom is another thing.
you can't. So there's always a balance of clinical expertise, but if you can't talk to somebody, it doesn't really matter
Right.
what you learned, because if you can't talk, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You have to be able to apply it.
Yeah, so yeah, she was like, all right, I need somebody to drive the sales, the marketing,
Yeah.
and it sounds like your strength, and I've definitely gotten this from talking to you a lot, is you're really great at connecting with people, uncovering their needs, wants,
Yeah.
desires, and then helping them take the information and then bridge the gap between what you help them realize
Right.
and what they need to do.
100%.
And so you started to do that. You did that full time. Talk to me about the process of whenever you started full time with Melissa.
Mhm.
Talk to me about some of the pain points that you encountered along the way when it comes to maybe working with your spouse, and then also maybe just in the business in general. Like, were there any pretty significant barriers you had to learn how to overcome at first whenever you first started going to the business full time?
Oddly enough, working with her,
I'm just trying to get you in trouble.
Yeah,
is what
no,
I'm doing.
it was actually really easy. I'm trying to think of what we've had a problem with, but here's where we've had a problem. I want to give everything away.
I see.
And she's like, we have to make money. We're a business.
Yeah.
I have a background in civil rights and nonprofit. 10 years I worked in housing discrimination. So we would tackle issues related to housing and various protected categories to help people who have been victimized in discrimination with housing transactions. So my bleeding heart was always wanting to just, I want what we do to just to be, I want everyone to do it.
Sure.
I wish we could give it away. You
Yeah.
know? So there's that. So you obviously can't run a business when you're just giving everything away.
Right. Yeah.
And then barriers would be, we didn't really figure out our avatar, our phenotype for the first couple of years.
Gotcha. Well, what did it start? Because this is probably one of, when it comes to, and especially in our world, in
Yeah,
our space, it is when you have the heart of, I could help everybody. One of the hardest things to do is to
Right.
niche down and get super
Right.
clear on not only the person that could benefit most from what you do, but the person that you enjoy working with the most as
Right.
well.
Right.
So yeah, I'd love to hear about like how that's evolved for you. What was your, I guess, what were the first few kinds of avatars of people that you served, and then what did you land on as of now?
Because this was founded in, and because clinical exercise physiology was founded in research facilities on athletes, that's who we thought would first come to us. Even though her whole idea actually says to bring it to everybody, we oddly enough ignored that at first, which made no sense because
Yeah.
it's in our story. Like it says, the goal was to bring it to everybody, and then we were thinking, oh, bodybuilders and CrossFitters and all these runners, they're all going to flock to us and be running into us. And we were like, hey, you know,
We're the people.
where are these people? And when you look at the population wide, that's less than 10% of the population anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through a lot, made a lot of mistakes, moved several times within Richmond. we've settled now, and we're in an amazing space. And we partner with Partner MD, a concierge medical practice here, and they brought us in to work with their patients.
Okay.
We're open to the public, of course. We're our own business, but we had already started to see, hey, the person that goes to Partner MD is the person that typically comes to see us. The person who is more proactive about their health, the person who is preventative minded, and the person who wants to live longer and better. It wasn't the 25-year-old with abs.
Right.
It was
because they're not thinking about that, right?
Right.
They're still in superhero mode, thinking that they're invincible. So they're not going to be worried about the potential of injury.
Right. Yeah. So now it's the 45-year-old dad bod, right?
Right.
And the mom that had 3 kids.
Right.
And things just don't work the same anymore. So that's who came in, and it makes sense when I say this out loud. I'm like, God, why didn't we just make that the focus? But we found out that physicians are far and away our best partners. So we work with numerous practices throughout the area, from Williamsburg, Charlottesville, Virginia Beach here, that send us their patients because we help improve their outcomes. And that's, you had asked me at the beginning about, sort of the why, and we're very, very people driven and wanting to help people. And we firmly believe what we do is a vital part of an annual physical to help improve those long-term outcomes.
Cool. So you've partnered with, because healthcare is, it's an interesting nut to crack, I've found.
Yeah.
And because I've been, a lot of the work that I do has been with behavioral health centers and business owners who own clinical practices. And I know it's not an easy world to get into, but what you just said is so smart, where it's making it a part of a step of what people already know they need to do. So it sounds like when I guess walk me through this process, because this is really interesting, because this is something I've thought about doing in my business, because I've been partnering with more medium-sized organizations. It's kind of gotten a little bit bigger for me. So the process is they go to a primary care physician, and then what are the things that they uncover that prompt them to refer to you?
It'd be 2 types of people generally. That person goes in and they find out they're pre-diabetic or diabetic, they're pre-hypertensive or hypertensive. They're already on several medications and they're in a disease state.
Gotcha.
Or they're about to become into a disease state.
Got it.
Or they're very close. Or the other person, it's you in 20 years, you've stayed active. Hey, I just want to make sure my next 40 years are great.
Right.
Sorry. Is that you're the person, you've done it. Like in 20 years, you're still going to be, I already know fitness is a super important part of your life.
Right.
And in 20 years, it'll still be there.
I see.
You won't be who you are today because you'll be so busy, but you're still going to make it a part of your life. But maybe now at 45, things just aren't quite the same, and recovery takes longer. So, but now you want to maximize your time because it is even more limited than it was. So those are the 2 people, and really kind of falls into 2 categories that we would call longevity and obesity. Frankly.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. So and it's interesting because I've seen this across even the coaching space as well. It sounds like for you, the general population person is me in 20 years.
Yes.
Right. And then the people that you get referred are the people who are in a disease state or about to be in a disease state.
So they got a bad diagnosis. Their mom, their sister, their wife, their brother got a bad diagnosis.
Right. So like, hey, this is your wake up call.
Right.
And that's interesting because a lot of the things that I've do. So obviously helping high performers.
Right.
Take back control of their well-being. People who feel like work is consuming their life. It took me a really long time to figure out what my avatar was too. Because it's like, well, yeah, everybody's experiencing burnout. Everybody's experiencing a lack of fulfillment. There's so many people who struggle with this. So who do I really connect with? And what I realized was it has to be a very specific kind of person experiencing lack of fulfillment. It wasn't just the general, hey, I'm working 3 jobs and I don't like my life. And so I want to change. It has to be the person who has taken the trauma and the pain they've experienced in their past and they've used it as fuel to create external success. And so they've already achieved the stuff that they thought was going to make them happy. And then what happens is the fuel that they originally used to create that success has now become corrosive. So it's become self-destructive in a way, and they got away with it for a while when they were younger, right? So they were able to take Adderall all the time or work 80 hours a week. For a long time, that fuel was really potent, and all they had to do was just hustle and grind, and that worked for them. And I've noticed the people that I really resonate with are the people who it's no longer working, but they feel trapped in the same cycles and patterns of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's people a lot of times I've realized who have a lot of self-awareness too. So it can't be people who aren't in tune with personal development. They have to be almost in a way personal development veterans.
All right.
So people who they've already gone to therapy, they've already tried the productivity hacks and tactics, they've already read the books, they listen to the podcasts, but they still feel stuck in patterns of behavior that aren't serving them.
Right.
And it's so interesting because but if you don't get to the point where you've already done the thing that you thought was going to be your solution, it's really hard for you to invest in something that is not surface level. So it sounds like with you, it's similar in the sense of the people that are coming to you have gotten to a certain level of awareness of, if I don't fix this thing, I'm going to have real consequences within the next 1 year, 5 year, or 10 years.
Right.
And unfortunately, as much as we like to think that people will just want to be proactive in general and take care of their health, investing in really effective solutions that go deeper than just the surface level requires people to have a certain level of pain in order to do so, just from my experience. So,
yeah. And a lot of what you're talking about leads to the burnout part, right?
yeah.
And where do you see burnout manifest physically? Where we see it is one area is in visceral fat readings. So you may have a person who's actually you in 20 years who has stayed active, they do really well, but alcohol is a big part of their social life, part of their personal life. And I've seen people, had someone recently, and their visceral fat had remained, it might have even increased or remained. So they had body composition improvement as far as fat loss, muscle gain, got better there. But if I recall, their visceral fat, I don't think it moved. Sometimes we've seen it move.
So what's the difference between visceral fat and then just regular body fat percentage?
So subcutaneous fat is fat I can pinch, see, and feel. It's right here, right? This is we have a layer of subcutaneous fat on our whole body.
Okay.
So visceral fat's under the abdominal wall, and that's the fat that's going to surround the organs, and that's where you look at high risk, because you could have a healthy amount of you could have an unhealthy amount of subcutaneous fat and have almost no visceral fat.
I see.
So you can't see someone's visceral fat when they walk by you. Now, when you typically see it is in a male who may look pregnant.
I see. Yeah. So it's like they call it the beer gut.
Right. And you may even feel the stomach and be like, wow, that's your stomach's rock hard. Well, that's really bad because there's so much fat internally. It's pushing the muscle out. So you're feeling the muscle. And there may not be a ton of subcutaneous fat that's on the outside that's squishy. So that really hard stomach is the worst outcomes, because now we're looking at alcohol directly impacting that. Alcohol is going to be a direct contributor.
Right.
Stress, which is what I'm hearing a lot. And then what you see with stress and alcohol is typically the lack of sleep or poor quality sleep.
So with the kind of people that you help, do you see a lot of, because it sounds like you work with higher performers, high net people. It sounds like our avatar is pretty similar in that way.
Yeah, you're describing who we work with.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. So do you see that a lot of people use substances as a way to cope?
Alcohol is just a part of life.
Okay.
It's just a part of, I went to an event, I was at work, I went to a dinner, I took a client out, I had to fly to Texas, I had to fly to Florida, I had to fly to New York. It's just a part of everything.
Yeah.
Talking about wellness in general, that's where the environment, we live in an environment now that is, not necessarily a fan of the word, but toxic. We are in an environment that does not support health. The environment overall is largely negative, whether it's the food or the behavior or substances that come. Alcohol is just accepted to be a part of a normal meal.
Sure.
It just shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It should be used rarely, if ever.
Yeah.
Our recommendation for alcohol is 0. And we've seen people, again, that are doing really well across the board, but because of their high alcohol intake, and that's because we do work with physicians, you see those impacts are very real on other metrics we're getting from the docs, and talking about like, hey, you're actually really good across the board. Your visceral fat is a little bit higher. And then you get into the conversation, how many drinks do you have? 3 a day, 2 a day.
Yeah.
1 a day. It's like someone had told me recently that they have 15. I said a year, and he said a week. And I was like, we're gonna need to tackle this, right?
Wow.
Because that's where you
So
see,
yeah, what do you do? I'm so curious
yeah,
about this because I'm people come in because they have real consequences that they're
hmm
facing. And, my stepmom passed away from alcoholism and I've been through addiction as
yeah,
well. So I know how hard it is to really break and cope
yeah.
with. So I'm just curious about your success rate when it comes to people come to you. For the most part, their overall health is fine besides the substance
Yeah.
use issues. How do you attack that? Do you help them yourself and then you refer them to another specialist? I'm just curious about your process
Yeah.
when you uncover that the big thing that's holding people back is this addiction and reliance
Yeah.
on substance abuse.
It depends on where they came from, but I stay within my scope is the first part.
Okay.
But this is where we've built a really big network of mental health providers, of people that can handle substance abuse, eating disorders, disordered eating.
Sure.
We stay in our lane. And depending where they came from, if they came from a physician or we're working with their doc, it's much easier
Okay.
because the doc can step in a lot with that.
Gotcha.
But even then, you may need another professional to come in to handle. I'm not a substance abuse.
Sure.
That's not my field.
So
I
talk
don't
me
even
through.
pretend to be.
Do you
that
have
way.
like a specific example of the last time? Because I'm just curious
Yeah.
about your process. I've never really asked you
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this. The last time where you had somebody referred to you, and they're willing to work with you. They're
Yeah,
willing to
yeah.
change. I think a huge part of this process is it has to be self-selective,
Right,
You can't,
right.
just like rehab, you can't go kicking and screaming. You
Right,
have
right.
to opt yourself in. So somebody opts themselves in to work with you.
Yeah.
You talk me through. So what's the process of when you get somebody in,
Yeah.
and then would love to hear an example of somebody that you've uncovered through your process that the big thing holding them back is alcoholism or a substance abuse problem, and then just how you dealt with that.
So it hasn't come out, and I can't begin to classify whether it was alcoholism or not.
Sure.
I'll leave that to the
Professionals.
leave that to them. Excuse me, determine that. But you definitely see. I'm just looking at usage rates,
Sure.
and is it impeding their life? Can they not function without? That's where you see the signs, right?
Right.
But again, I can't diagnose that.
Right.
So
Yeah, this is strictly opinion.
yeah. But you obviously see it's a problem,
Right.
and it's affecting their sleep, it's affecting their health, it's affecting the again, by being able to work with docs on this and seeing some of the deeper analytics that we would never uncover because the visceral fat gives us an indicator of, hey, you're doing everything right, but you have a higher level of visceral fat than I expect for someone with your build, with your activity level, with everything you're telling me, something's not adding up. And it's going to be sleep diet. It's going to be sleep and alcohol and stress all combined. They typically go hand in hand because as you get more stressed, you drink more. As you drink more, you sleep worse. As you sleep worse, you're more stressed, and it's that cycle.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where you see that occur. So in that process, if it is uncovered, and I will probably tell you I will tell you every single person that I do any sort of health behavior coaching with, I ask all of them if they've seen a therapist. It's just a standard question I ask.
Sure.
Most of the time, they're pretty self-aware and they already have. Well, I will say the women, give them credit.
Probably more so.
I will say,
yeah.
I think 100% of women, almost 100% of women I've ever asked that question that are coming to us for help with the fitness programming, the dietary programming, the stress management, the sleep, they've all been or are in therapy. A lot of the men are like,
Yeah.
but they would be, some of them have been, some of them haven't, but you can uncover. And that's when I say, hey, you should, I don't just say, hey, Brendan, you need therapy. It comes up naturally, organically.
Right.
But honestly, right. And you'll see I need to see if I identify things, if there's things happening to where everything is there, and this is where you do see it with women more so than men, everything's set up for her to succeed. She came to us for our testing, which is how it all starts. She asked about the process. They signed up. Maybe we had a consultation. She signed up for all 3 tests. We got the baseline data.
Mm-hmm.
We see where she needs to improve. We see what she can do. And in the process, we now begin working with her. We're coaching with her. But for some reason, every time I talk to her, oh, well, I'm not really doing this, not really doing that.
Mm.
And then you find out, well, is your husband supportive? Oh yeah, he's great. He's always telling me, let's go take a walk.
Gotcha.
You have 2 kids that are in high school. How are they? They're like, oh, Mom, we'll take care of our little brother who's 8, and you go work out, and say mom is the one who cooks, like, no, it's dad is going to cook this week, or we're going to, like, you have a really good support system,
Right.
and she still won't do it.
Right.
So that's a different conversation also.
Sure.
Because now if you're in,
Now she's purely getting in her own way.
right.
Right.
And it's a much deeper conversation than that. And that's where I really encourage them that we need to get you connected to somebody that is going to be able to unpack that in a deeper level. Again, that's not my expertise.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to know.
Yeah.
What is in your perspective, because I get asked this question a lot, and I can give my perspective on this too. What would you say is the difference between a therapist and a coach?
I think there is a fine line there that doing what we do, what you do, like you really have to know that line.
Yeah.
And not get into diagnosing depression, anxieties, doing clinical diagnoses.
Sure.
And the biggest difference too is I tell people, I will tell you what to do. A therapist will say, well, Brendan, how does that make you feel?
Right.
What do you think we should do?
Right.
I'm going to say, Brendan, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
Here's what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
Here's how you're going. So that's the difference is
Sure.
But that's also why we're not clinically diagnosing depression, anxiety, bipolar,
Right.
Whatever the mental health disorder may be. We're doing things to help that we know will help improve without doing that clinical diagnosis that we leave. That's the difference, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you in that.
But but the conversations are going to be similar. I think the biggest difference is we give direction. We tell them what to do.
Here's how you move. This is the steps to get you from the version of you who you are now and then the version of you want to be.
Yeah.
And what I always tell people with that is therapy, they're able to diagnose people. 2, therapy, in my perspective, is all based around unpacking.
Right.
So it's all about, why are you the way you are? It's helping expand a certain level of awareness. It's very good for helping with self-realization, which is amazing. And I think that it's something everybody needs.
Right.
I think coaching bridges the gap between awareness and action. Coaching is like, how do we move forward now, though? And it's interesting with a lot of the work that I do because of so many of the people I work with go to therapy, and I've had clients who are business owners who own therapy practices. It's really interesting. I see a lot of people stuck in what I call the self-awareness trap.
Yeah.
So people who are so good, they can name why they are the way they are. They can trace it back to their childhood. They can self-diagnose out the wazoo, and it becomes their crutch to procrastinate. It's interesting. And so they're super aware, but they're still stuck. And that's why with my coaching, it's really interesting why I call it transformation coaching, going deeper than just thoughts, because I feel like with therapy, we talk a lot about thought patterns. Where I really like to get down to the identity. Yeah. So there's like different layers of identity. There's what we typically see, which is our results. And then we have our actions. And then from beneath of that, typically we have our thoughts, and then we have our emotions. And then at the very bottom of is our beliefs. Yeah. And what I see is the reason why people can't stick to changing an action and creating a different result in their life is not because of the thoughts. It's because of the belief underneath of the thought. And that's even with therapy, even with people, like, I feel like therapy is great for, let me monitor my thoughts. Let me really be aware of my inner state. But if you don't change the root, the belief that's driving the stories, then you're going to continue to loop into the same patterns of behavior that aren't serving you. So it's really interesting. So I didn't know that there was layers to awareness, but really, if you don't get to the root of the tree, it doesn't matter what you try to do, stuff's going to die on it. And I really think when it comes to, especially when it comes to addiction or substance reliance, what I found to be true is if you are still carrying the same identity as you carried when you were an addict, then you will fill that void with some other substance or some other impulsive addiction. Yeah. So for me, because I believe deep down, I had a belief that said who I am is not good enough. No matter what I did in my external reality, no matter how much success I achieved, no matter what behaviors I changed, what books I read, I still found a way to be addicted to something, whether it was porn, whether it was edibles, whether it was stimulants, whether it was working myself to death. Right. All of it was trying to do the same thing. And it wasn't until I figured out, it's because this person that I've created to survive is not who I actually am. I've created this armor that I've worn
Right.
to
A
win the
mask.
war
Yeah.
of like whatever my past
Right.
circumstances
Right.
were. And it served me to a point, but I didn't realize that the war was over and I refused to take off the armor. So there's this like huge process that has to happen of understanding that the version of you that is engaging in things that you do not prefer
Mm.
and that is creating results in your life that do not serve you. It's really important to understand that that's not you. That's the armor that you've created to survive.
Mm.
And in order for you to move past it, you have to learn how to unpack that. You have to take off the armor
Mm.
and you have to literally shift your identity. And it's just, I wish that was talked about more in therapy. I wish that was talked about more in general, because if you don't change that sense of self, really nothing is going to be sustainably different.
Yeah.
You can do different things and get different results, but what's the point if you don't feel emotionally fulfilled and you feel like shit?
Yeah.
That's just my perspective.
No, you're right. And I think people do get into exactly what you said, which is that,
The trap.
the trap. And I've seen many people like that where it's been 20 years, you're still talking and talking and talking. And to me, it's time to get a new therapist,
Right.
because your therapist should have said to you at one point, hey, let's put a plan into action, or let's bring in some outside support for something they can't handle.
Right.
And having talked to some therapists and about that, and they want to make money also. They want to stay in business.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
That's
Because I want to talk about the
This-
shadow side of therapy and healthcare. Yeah. What's your perspective?
I hate that. My
Yeah.
goal is, if you come and do coaching with us in that way, is we have a 4-month commitment.
Yes.
But if at 2 months you say, I hate you, I don't want to work with you, no worries. We'll
Peace
stop
out.
it. Yeah, it's never happened. But because I just screen people first and make sure that they're in the right space to do it. But
Sure.
and you can't just sign up for it on our website. You have to go through our process first. So
Right.
we get an eval of where you are.
Yeah. Make it harder for them to start, because
Yeah.
that's how you know the people who are serious.
I want people to be invested in it, and I want them to have better outcomes. And also, it's frankly a terrible experience for me too if they don't want to be there.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make it fun. So I had this. When you look at, I've had this conversation with some therapists saying, hey, how much do you talk about diet and exercise with the patients? Oh, it doesn't really come up. I'm like, when you look at the data, particularly depression and anxiety and SSRIs, right? So they're on all these antidepressants, anti-anxiety meds,
Yeah.
and psychotherapy. When you look at all three together of psychotherapy, medication, and a diet and exercise regimen, best outcomes. Not surprising, right?
Right.
When you look at independent variables, guess what gets the best outcome on its own?
Exercise.
Diet and exercise
Yeah.
gets the most improvement for those particular symptoms. When you look at SSRIs versus just diet and exercise, better outcomes with diet and exercise, right?
Right.
So to me, it's an injustice if you're not addressing those things.
Yeah, and I think that you're bridging a really important gap too, which with your Synergy Health Collective, which is if you don't have different providers talking to each other and helping them address different dimensions of health, it is a waste of time.
Right.
Like I was the person, and I say this as the person who, when I was younger, when I was 16 years old, I started going to therapy because I had a life-threatening tumor and I almost had suicidal ideations.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with depression at 9.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with anxiety at 11 or something. And so I had mental health issues. I went to therapy, and the reason why I started exercising was not because of therapy. It was because I wanted to have an outlet of release. And it was so interesting because if you don't recognize that there's different dimensions to health, then you're only going to try to address one thing at a time as opposed to the whole human picture. And so for me, I was in a career nutrition and supplement company. I worked out 5 days a week. I exercised a lot. I would say I was relatively in shape and fit.
Yeah.
And mentally and emotionally, I was a wreck. I was also addicted to stimulants, and I was addicted to edibles. And that's what happens when you only address one dimension of health. I didn't address the mental and emotional stuff. I was only addressing like the physical health stuff.
Yeah.
And I think there's a separate dimension to that, which is the spiritual stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is, are you actually living the life that you're meant to
What's
live?
your purpose, right?
Yeah, like are you living a life what I call powered by stress or powered by purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was so much for me that I had to unpack when I burned out and lost everything. And I think especially for like the high performers out there, it's never made sense to me why there isn't a requirement in healthcare to where everybody needs to collaborate together instead of it all being separate professions.
Yeah.
And I really just think a lot of it is, well, if I only address the symptom, then I keep making money.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate reality of when I was a victim of becoming addicted to opiates because of what doctors prescribed me.
Yeah.
When I went to therapy, I just never really felt like anything got to the root. And the only thing that truly started to change my life was learning about identity, like learning about all the different dimensions and layers of what makes you you. And when I learned, beliefs and emotions and thoughts and then actions and results, that's the whole big picture. And then you learn how to like actually change those things from the inside out. Mm-hmm. That's when I finally stopped using substances. Mm-hmm. That's when I started to actually be able to build my business. That's when I started to feel fulfilled. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until I got there.
Yeah.
And it's cool because I think obviously it's important to address all the different things individually. And you also don't want to try to address everything at once or else your life will blow up and you'll feel overwhelmed. But I love that you are just collaborating with other physicians and you're probably partnering with people who are in alignment with your values, who you 100%. Actually believe in. Right. Because if you don't do that, then it's just like it's just like taking ibuprofen for having a chronic migraine diagnosis. Like it's going to help you in the moment, but you're just going to feel like shit again.
Right. And with what you're talking about, where does that model exist, right? Who's really doing it?
Yeah.
Not many people, if anybody, right? So that's the whole purpose of that group was while it's a networking group, it's a little bit different because the patient or the client is the center, not us passing referrals. That comes as a byproduct.
Yeah.
The main product is this person, Brendan's here, sitting here today. We've done his testing. We've had these conversations. We've identified these other needs that we can't fulfill. Where can we get him the support that he needs it? And who can we know that would be best suited for him from a whole list of, from different needs that he may have that are unique to him.
I love that.
Right. And that's how you get complete care and best outcomes. And if that means that you work with us just for testing and someone else was a better fit for anything else, maybe they could do some coaching. Great. But they're a better fit.
You go there.
Then go there. I don't care. I want to get the person that's the better fit for us and we're a better fit for them and get ultimately the best outcome. So being people driven and not monetarily driven.
Yeah.
And again, going back to Melissa and saying that, I'd put us out of business because I gave everything away for free. My passion and my drive is completely driven by people.
Yeah.
It's just who I enjoy. It's where I get my energy, where I get my power, my purpose is by talking to people and hearing their story and understanding them. And then how can I help support them?
I love it. And for you,
it's real simple.
I would love to put the spotlight back on you too. Yeah. So as you've built this business, I mean, you're a guy who you're very busy in the best way. And every time I'm talking to you, you're always doing something. Yeah. So how do you, as somebody whose business is revolved around personal well-being, how do you prioritize your well-being as you're building the business?
It's tougher and tougher, right? It becomes a thing of having me in particular, it's going to bed at night, is making myself to get off the computer or get off of doing some real, some video and just make myself go to bed. It's something that myself included, I struggle in that way, same as I carve out time to exercise. And the last couple of days, I haven't been able to get designated exercise time. So I've had a couple walking meetings, and I still got in a good bit of steps the last couple of days, despite having zero designated exercise. I still got over 10,000 steps both days. So I was happy with that. But I was in a car a lot. I was in a lot of meetings. But
do you have a process that you, like, let's say it's on Sunday. I don't know when you plan your week. So I'm sure you plan, and I'm sure Melissa helps you with this. Yeah. Do you have a process of, I would love to hear maybe more tactical advice for the people listening to this, because you're obviously doing something and you may struggle, but it sounds like as a net as a whole, you're doing well with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your process of planning your weeks and making sure that your personal well-being is a priority?
Yeah. So anybody, whether it's myself or somebody we work with, we're going to look at the week and see when is our designated time to exercise. Is it before work? Is it midday? Is it after work? A lot of these people becomes before work. It's at 6 a.m. time. That does become a diminishing return sometimes with giving up sleep for exercise. And I'm going to favor sleep over waking up early to exercise. I think sleep is going to be catastrophic. I think it's just,
Yeah, unless you're slamming pre-workout all
yeah,
day, right? Yeah.
right. But it's really important. So I do plan it. So if I know, hey, at 4:30 I can go over to Burn and Short Pump and take a class. I know that at 5 I can get to the gym and go get a workout. I know that at 2 o'clock Brandon's coming over. We're going to hit pads. I know that I can't get anything in today, but I know I have 3 meetings. I'm going to just go for walks on those meetings. So
Cool.
I will look at what I'm doing for the day and say, when can I get in my movement? And for me, it's not the same every day. So but also being an owner, I can have a bit more flexibility in that way.
Sure.
But there are times when it just isn't going to happen, and I have to resolve it in my mind. Okay, today it just isn't going to happen, but
Sure.
let me get back on it the next day and try to get back. So that's the same way I help people build. We literally look at their schedule. What do you typically do? And just like anything else, it does mean giving up something else. It could be family time. It could be work time.
Mm.
And a lot of times with these people, it's forcing them to stop working
Yeah.
because
Walk me through that
Yeah.
process. I would love to hear the conversations that you have with people to get people to realize, hey, the reason why you're working so much
Yeah.
is not because of necessity.
Yeah, they have the
It's
money.
it's
They love
because
it. They love it.
well,
It's part of
they love it,
Yeah.
or I'd argue and say they don't even love it; they're addicted to it.
Mm.
I would even say that it gets to a point where people resent the success that they've built, but they feel like they can't stop, and because of that, they're almost addicted to it. And what I see is people use work as a form of avoidance.
Yeah.
So what I did was, because work is so socially accepted in our society, I was the person who I would work all day, every day. And then if I had personal stuff that was going on at home, or my health was out of whack in some way, instead of really confronting that and dealing with it, I would just make up scenarios and excuses. I'd literally create problems out of nothing. So I had to work and deal with them,
Yeah.
because that was a way of procrastination.
Yeah.
So people use their work ethic, at least the people I help, they use their work and their success as a form of avoidance, so they can neglect the other areas of their life, because that's more comfortable to them than dealing and confronting with the stuff they put on the back burner.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about, with your conversations, how do you get them to be like, hey, you're doing this not because you have to, but because you're not making your health a priority?
A lot of these people have a lot of other. One question I ask people is, who else are you caring for? And if it's the man, he'll say, you do have single people. Yeah, there is that single person in their 40s that does happen, and the answer becomes themselves. They're caring for themselves. They get it right away.
Yeah.
But when you have the person that's married with kids, parents, dogs, whatever, a lot of people are depending on them being there, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and providing that entire support system. So when I can get people to understand, the healthier and better they are, the better they'll be able to take care of others. Because some of these people, particularly the women, I would say more so than the men, at least the women are more in tune with this, or seem to not be able to put themselves first ever.
Yeah.
And it just seems that men, I will say, can be selfish a bit. They're better at being selfish.
Yeah.
Overwhelmingly, the women that we've worked with, especially the moms they're a partner at a big firm downtown, and she's working 60 hours a week, and they have kids they're taking care of, and they're doing after school activities, and the husband's a piece of shit, right? That's the worst possible scenario.
Right.
Or even if it's a supportive husband and he's doing his parts he should be doing as a good father and partner. It's getting her to understand, we need to stop what you're doing. We need to put you first. And if not, you're going to break. And if you break, now what happens? Who's going to take care of all these people that you've now taken on that burden, taken on that responsibility, burden, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you you have so many other things that you're not putting yourself first. That's where burnout occurs. That's where
Yeah.
something breaks. Something will break. It's not a matter of if, but when. So
Yeah.
getting that woman, that person, and then with the men, getting them to also realize you're okay financially here. Like, I get it. You want to be the breadwinner. You want to be this, whatever. You're super driven. From what you said, you have a great relationship with your wife, your family. Everything's great, but do we really need to do? Where can we scale back a bit and get more value and purpose out of the people that you care about the most and that you're caring for? So it's about getting them a long way of saying, convincing them to put themselves first.
Yeah.
And put their health first, because they'll be better for those they care for.
I love it. Yeah. And it's kind of getting them to see I like to always ask the question, if you don't change anything, what does your life look like a year from now?
Yeah.
And when they realize, you get them out of that fight or flight, because when you're in survival mode, survival doesn't have to mean a lack of resources. Survival mode means that your nervous system's dysregulated. You have beliefs that make you believe in some form or fashion that you have to suffer to be successful, or it's not safe to slow down or whatever. When you're in survival mode, the way I describe it is like you're driving a car 300 miles per hour on the freeway.
Yeah.
You can only focus on what's in front of you because life is happening so fast. And I think that this is actually clinically proven. Your executive functioning in your brain actually decreases in cognition whenever you're in survival mode. So the primal part of the brain is very much so online, but the creative part of the brain is not. So you can't see the bigger picture when you're in survival mode. You can only see what's in front of you. And what happens is it makes it so people can ignore the long-term repercussions of the way they're functioning. So you have to like, you have to like make it safe for people to like kind of regulate with you.
Right.
And once they're regulated, you can be like, all right, let's look at the bigger picture here. If you continue to go down this path, this is what's going to happen. The train is going to hit you. Right now, you have the opportunity to get out of the way. Are you going to do it?
Yeah. Well, it brings this point that sometimes I hear, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
At that point, if somebody says, I just don't want to know, it's that avoidance, right? And their head's down focusing on other things. And they know that their health is getting out of control at this point. But if their response is, I don't want to know, and behavior change, you're looking at different steps where they are mentally.
Yeah.
They're not there.
They're not ready for it yet.
They're going to be forced into it one day.
Yeah.
And this is where you just said is, if you don't change it, where in a year, how is it going to be? And, it's kind of that when you talk, even reference addiction, and until someone says, I'm ready, or I'm going to do this. So those different stages of change and where somebody is matter greatly.
Yeah.
But I think that we need to encourage them to start. We have to try to push them there. And when someone doesn't want to know, and then I talk to them.
So people have said that to you in your consultation with them.
Yeah. And those are people that don't come in. Right. And I'm like, we're here when you're ready. Because we look for volunteers, not hostages.
I love it.
I don't want to force someone to come in and have a bad experience, but at the same time, I have a couple of those questions like what you're talking about. If you don't do anything, where are we in a year? They know what's happening already.
Yeah.
That's why they don't want to know.
Yeah, and it's not urgent enough for them to change.
The pain isn't bad enough yet, right?
Yeah.
And then so, again, Brian, I'm not gonna make you come in, but I think we could really help you in this way. And when you're ready, we're here.
That's so important. And this isn't, I want to tell you a story real quick that just happened to me that is really drives us home. So part of the work that I'm doing now is I'm going into organizations and being hired by these organizations to hold confidential group cohorts to help their people, their high performers, unpack and deal with the personal issues outside of work so they can keep thriving inside of work. It's super cool. However, I've done this two ways. The first way I did this was I coached a behavioral health team, and it was unexpected that this happened the way it did. I went and did a workshop on burnout prevention, and typically the workshops that I do, they're really tailored towards meeting people where they are as far as their level of awareness. So it's always three kinds of people:
Right.
the unfulfilled, the people who are already fulfilled, who don't really have issues. And what I'm doing is putting logic to why they feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people who are, I call it the overextended person. So the person who they are aware of struggles that they're experiencing, but they're not at a point where it's so bad that they're in so much pain that they're super willing to change. And then there's the person who, the worn down one, they're already very aware that they're burned out, something's happening, but maybe their perspective of the root cause is not what is actually going on. And I always say that in these talks. And so the talk is designed to help people meet them where they are. And for the person who's fulfilled, hey, now you're going to have a logical understanding of why, and you're going to stay that way. The person who's overextended is like, hey, before this gets too bad, you're going to have tools to create more fulfillment in your life. Right. And the person who's worn down, it's like, hey, you're going to get immediate relief and solutions now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I did a workshop for this team, and at that point I was doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. So I asked people, hey, if you're interested in a free consultation with me, let me know. And there was a team of 12 people, 7 people came up to me and said they wanted to do one-on-one coaching with me. And so I had this idea. I went to the owner and I said, hey, how would you feel if we actually just did group coaching here and I helped all your team members? Yeah. That was great in theory. What happened though was it wasn't just the people who came up to me and said, I want one-on-one coaching. It was everybody. And then the owner did it with everybody. The problem was the owner was not ready to confront the stuff that was required to really make the changes she needed to make. So she was more than willing to help the team, but she wasn't willing to confront it herself. And then the room was kind of split when I was working with them. It was people who were really ready and they were super invested and it was beneficial, and then people who weren't ready. Yeah. And so what I learned from that experience was people have to self-select. And so now I just did this again. I just did a presentation for a group of 70 sales leaders. And what I said at the end was like, hey, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to opt into a group coaching program. This is very deep work, meaning that you have to be at a point where you know that if you continue to live life the way you're living it, you're going to have drastic personal consequences, meaning that your marriage is going to start falling apart, your health is going to start declining, your performance at work is going to start dipping. So this program is only for the people who are truly ready to change. Right. That being said, take this survey and let me know if you want to do it. And I made it anonymous so that people who didn't opt in didn't have to put their name. It was so interesting because now doing it that way, and leadership's not allowed to be a part of the cohort. So if you're in the sales department, your sales leader is not allowed to be in the cohort. So it's everybody's going to sign confidentiality agreements. It's all has to be private. Yeah. But doing it that way, now you have a room full of people who are ready for the work. And that's what I've learned is so important. Yeah. And I think a lot of business owners struggle with that is you're trying to force people to be ready before they're ready. Yeah. And maybe you're doing that because you're in scarcity. Maybe you're doing that because you want more money. Yeah. You're trying to force somebody to fit and trying to push them as opposed to pulling them in and letting them come to you. And that's just not a sustainable business model. But you saying that really jogged that in my mind because I've really seen what happens when you try to force people to do stuff when they're not ready.
Yeah. It's not a pleasant experience for anybody.
Yeah.
At the same time, there is the other side of healthcare that says, hey, you may not want to go get your blood drawn, but this is just part of the physical. So, I mean, there is an opt-in participatory, compulsory, whatever you want to call it, part they have to do.
Right.
And and otherwise just don't come in at all is the other part. So you have to have some buy-in, right? Yeah. There has to be some amount of buy-in. And then I think that if we can become the catalyst, the cue to action, the reason why they say, okay, maybe I can start to look at this now. So I go from pre-contemplation, I'm not even thinking about this, to contemplation. All right, I know I should probably do something about this, but I don't really want to. I just don't want to. I don't want to know. To preparation, okay, well, I sat down.
I made a decision.
I should probably start to put something together. Then I put a plan into action. But it's. I think part of our jobs is to push them from pre-contemplation into contemplation into preparation.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Because while they may not be ready, we know that this is needed, right? And eventually some people, there's be a certain percentage of people they're never going to be ready, and they're going to die heavily medicated to be frank.
And that's like it's interesting because the mind may not be ready, but the soul's ready. And that's what I've seen is like, and that's, I think there has to be a mandatory component at first.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when I go in and do talks, the whole team's required to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And so the way the talk needs to
And
be.
you see when some people are like, like there's gonna be a couple of people that just don't want to be there. It's
which is fine.
You
right?
can see their body language a mile away.
Yeah, which is fine. But what that does is it provides a container and an opportunity. So the talk, as much as I tailor it towards everybody.
Yeah.
But then, because if you go in and say, hey, your identity's like, if you go in and say like, hey, you're not the person you came here to be, like, you just can't do that, right? It's like trying to, it doesn't work. But yeah, it's so interesting.
There's an art and a sensitivity to it.
There is, yeah. And I think this is a cool topic to talk about because if you're a coach or you're somebody who is meant to facilitate transformation in some way for somebody, it's so important you recognize the difference between somebody who needs it but isn't ready for it and the person who needs it and is ready for it.
Right.
And it's not readiness in the sense of they don't feel fear or discomfort. But if you're able to paint the picture effectively for them and get them to really see the truth of the situation, and you're able to open the door for them, the people who are ready will walk in.
Yeah, right.
And then if they don't walk in, as long as you take the steps, that doesn't mean anything about you. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's not because your product isn't worthy enough. It's not because...
Right.
There's nothing like, and that's what I struggled with in the beginning was, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Why are people not wanting, like, I took it as a personal thing. Like, they're not wanting to work with me or I suck. And I realized it was more so just, like, these people aren't ready to walk through the door yet.
Right. That's where you look at that volunteers in hospital. I'm a Mike Tomlin guy. I'm a Pittsburgh guy. So, but he always talk about we want volunteers, not hostages. So we do discovery calls, and in that call, someone will call and say, "Hey," they put a request in online, and I'm talking. And they inquired about the DEXA scan. They just want to know. I just want to do a DEXA. And in talking to them, I say, well, either they'll say, well, what else do you offer, which is an easy conversation, or I do tell them. I make sure to tell them before they get off the phone what else we do offer and how it can help them. And it always leads to more questions from them. But I always leave it with, you can choose whatever you want to right now. You can do one test, two, or all three. Completely up to you. I'm just going to tell you the value that you'll get from each one, depending on where you are and where you're ready, what you're ready to do, and financially too. Here's what it would be. Do whatever you want. You can book easy online. I'm happy to help you get booked right now. Some people say, let's do it right now. I'll take their credit card. We book it right there.
Yeah.
Other people say, I'll take a look at it later. I got to think about it. That's fine. Other people will say, I'll go ahead and book all three online, and they do. Other people say, I'm going to think about it, and then you never hear from them again. That's actually pretty rare, though. We were pretty high. If you call us, there's a very, very 90% chance you're booking something.
Wow.
Not because I told you to, not because I had to convince you, but because we had a conversation. I didn't pressure you to do anything. I just present the options to you. Yeah. I don't believe in making you do something that you shouldn't.
Yeah, so, like the objection handling and basically the manipulative sales tactics to try to force somebody to do something that they truly don't want to do.
Somebody asked me once, they were calling about DEXA, and they said, convince me why I should do this. And I said, I'm not going to. I said, don't do it then. I said, I don't want, like, I was like, if you don't want to come in, I don't want you to come in. I said, I'm not going to convince you to do something that I told him the benefits, and maybe he thought it was a sales tactic, but it really isn't. It's how I feel. It's how I can put my head down at night and how I can wake up and know that people are coming in to see us because they want to be here.
Yeah. And that's powerful. And I think that's been a huge part of why you've been so successful and you've been growing so fast. So David, this was awesome. Yeah. Tell the people where they can find you, where they can learn more about your services. Plug yourself. Yeah. So
MetaFitRX.com, METAFIT RX.com, metabolicfitnessprescriptions.com. And you can find everything there. Instagram, LinkedIn, we're on there a lot, are probably the two main socials. Need to get on YouTube some more. But yeah, website and socials. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, David.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.